right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Riman 101 call. For those of you that do not know my face, I am Angie, the Product Training and Development Manager for Riman, and I have the pleasure of taking you through all the education and the inspiration, realistically, that comes from the science behind Riman. Now, with these calls, we have aimed to have them twice monthly on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. So we already had one at the beginning of June. This is our second call, and of course, they will continue on into the following months, really giving all of that intense science in regards to the products. But ultimately, what we want to do is encourage you in your utilization and in your design of your own rituals. So do not feel like you need to memorize all of these facts that I share with you. Just simply know that they exist, that they are there for you to really understand your product. So without further ado, I'm going to get started and I will share my screen.
Vorrei condividere il mio schermo.
Give me just a minute and I will get started.
Un minuto, così iniziamo.
So yes, the other thing you might be hearing is that we also do have translations for this call. So we have an Italian translator and Spanish as well. Oh, there we go. All right. So, oops, just advancing all the way in there. All right, so today's topic is our basic tenets of K-beauty. These are quintessential to understand because, they may seem basic on the surface in their performance, but they are crucial to the design of your own Riman ritual, but ultimately to upholding genuine health and well-being for your skin. So we will go through what cleansing, hydrating, and protecting really means, how the products within the ICD line categorize into these offerings, and how you can maximize your own ritual design on the basis of cleansing, hydrating, and protecting. All right, so we have to take a step back before even appreciating these K-beauty tenets to understand what we have determined to do in creating Riman as a K-beauty brand. Allowing ourselves to be identified as a K-beauty brand gives so many positive connotations and expectations that come naturally with Korean beauty and personal care. We draw from generational teachings to produce those innovative products, but they have a fundamental purpose. They are things that may be trendy in their appearance, but they're here to stay in their performance. So the products are prioritizing self-care more than anything. It's not just skincare, it's not just makeup or hair and body care, it is self-care. And it's something that you are able to practice every single day. This allows you to romanticize your routines for really appreciation of what happens on the outside in terms of your aesthetics, but what happens on the inside in terms of that self-care. How do you relax? How do you shed the day away or start the day with these moments of self-care in your routine? So in that concept, we really prioritize Rimmon and K-beauty not simply as something of appearance, of these aesthetic benefits. It's about importance. It is crucial that you practice your skincare every single day, that you practice your personal care as well, to not only have those profound results, but to transform your skin from its basic state. Because of course, our skin has its innate hydrators and innate cellular turnover processes, but giving it that extra edge with your skincare products is transformational in the ultimate health of your skin. Now, with K-beauty, we of course prioritize protection and prevention. We utilize gentler ingredients, but we ultimately maintain consistency to see results. And when we look at our concept of being rooted in tradition and what that all means for us, that proactive protection and prevention of the skin is really novel, I would say, to the many other brands and products that exist out here currently. Oftentimes, we're looking for quick fixes or band-aids to surface issues, but that doesn't get to the root cause such that those issues don't occur to begin with. With Rimmon, we look to work with your skin's innate health such that these issues don't occur and that you ultimately can achieve long-term radiance, long-term skin health. So gentler ingredients is the name of the game. If we are using any harsher actives such as retinoids or AHAs and BHAs, we keep them to a lower concentration to really maintain your skin's integrity. And I actually misspoke there. We do not use any retinoids in our formulations whatsoever. Those are hard to make gentle regardless of concentration. But in that consideration, we have that multi-step approach of K-Beauty. To see those profound results in that long-term skin health, you have to stay consistent, layering these ingredients and layering these products to truly see the benefit on the surface of your skin. And so in our approach as a K-beauty formulator, we have three main forms of that Riman difference in terms of technology and ingredients. And that's going to be our two heritage ingredients, the giant byung pool and the Jeju lava energy water, which we went over in previous calls, previous Riman 101s. But we also have our utilization of liposomal technology. What's crucial to understand about this is the liposomal technology is specifically for our Radiant Sun 100 line, which has yet to come to Europe and UK, but is soon to follow with all the new innovation that's coming and slowly opening up in your market. So right now we're really focusing on that giant byung pool and Jeju lava energy water as parts of our story. And if you were not able to join the calls previously, I went over these heritage ingredients. I do recommend that you reach out to my inbox to get the recording for it because it is crucial to understand the difference that comes from these key ingredients. So that inbox is just ritual@riman.com, always there for any product inquiries you may have. But let's now transition to the topic today, which are the basic tenets of K-beauty. While K-beauty is fundamental, it shouldn't be complex for you to appreciate. We have essentially simplified the approach in K-beauty with those basic tenets of cleansing, hydrating, and protecting your skin. Now, realistically, any good skincare routine is great because of these three tenets and following these three tenets with your products. But you can otherwise mix and match products as long as you have one that satisfies each of these tenets. And so we'll go more in detail what each of these means, but in an overview of the three tenets, we can appreciate first cleansing as that removal of surface impurities and also of the assistance of removing of dead skin cells. Now, your skin has a natural process known as the skin cell cycle, in which a new set of skin cells forms at the base layer of your epidermis. It begins to travel up to the surface and it begins to flatten out and lose water. And eventually it loses its nucleus or that kind of center brain to the cell. And once it's flattened out and completely dried out, it's a dead skin cell and it naturally sloughs off. However, as you may know, those things are stubborn and they can adhere to the surface of the skin, causing flakiness or dryness or dullness. So sometimes cleansing helps you really remove all those dead skin cells to improve the radiance and the texture of your skin. It also, in turn, helps with the absorption of your topical products in your routine. Now, hydrate. This is quintessential for Riman. When our chairman, founder On, created ICD, he focused on hydration as a fundamental performance that is so robust in what it could do for your skin. We'll go over more in depth why something as simple as water is so crucial for your skin, but it really allows for that glow that we all know with K-beauty and that genuine skin cell health. To lock in all of those efforts, we of course have protect. And protect in the quintessential description is for UV protection, blocking UV overexposure and those rays from causing damages in your skin, which can essentially reverse all of the efforts you have made with your skincare routine. Now, this comes in the form of a sunscreen like the Sun Protector in the UK and Europe. But we also like to look at Protect a little bit differently. We like to look at it as if you are enforcing your skin's innate protection, which of course is your skin barrier. So products that reinforce the lipid balance and the water content and inherently are allowing your skin barrier to strengthen is a form of protection as well. And so with that first tenet, we of course have our cleanse step. And for the appreciation of this tenet, I go back in history in Korea to really pull the importance and the romanticization of cleansing for your skin. Now we look towards the Shilla dynasty, which was thousands of years ago, to see how cleansing became a daily concept. It was known that really part of a daily routine was cleansing because it had a belief that a pure heart accompanied a clean body. And so, of course, that is something we can appreciate today. If you come home after a long day and you take a shower or you wash your face, that allows you to just rinse away all of the worries of the day to start afresh. And it was similarly perceived in history. And so this allows us to see a bit of that fundamentality of K-beauty. Something as simple and perhaps even modern as cleansing was practiced years ago. And it's not just in Korea as well. So early times, cleansing was done actually with using a piece of stone or bone, and they would scrape their skin, and that was called cleansing essentially. And later civilizations began to play around with plants and, the lipids and the oils that came out of these extracts to create essentially the first form of soaps. And many civilizations are credited with the first discovery of soap. So you might not have thought you were coming today for a history lesson as well as a science lesson, but cleansing is fundamental in all aspects because of the way it can purify the skin. Now, with that in mind, as we have modernized, of course, cleansing has transformed. Especially with science, we can look at a cellular level of how it is influencing the skin, how it is benefiting it in terms of the skin cell turnover, the removal of blockages and impurities that may go on to create comedones or pimples. All of this stuff is really allowing for you to maintain a good skin base, so to speak, that your topicals will later work on. And with that all in mind, you might be asking, why do we cleanse for the various reasons I've listed? There are so many different impacts that cleansing can have in your routine. Notably, it removes things that are not water soluble, that cannot be rinsed away with water alone. The dirt, the oil, makeup, and SPF, sebum that is built up throughout the day on the surface of your skin. It also, as I have mentioned, encourages that skin cell turnover. Whether a product is an exfoliating cleanser or not, it can mechanically manipulate those dead skin cells on the surface to encourage their removal. And of course, it's the enhanced preparation of the absorption of the other topical products in your routine, opening the pores and beginning to kind of moisturize the skin so that those topical products lay nicely and really have a chance at efficacy in your routine. Now, that all in mind, there is, of course, the appreciation of a good water rinse every once in a while. Myself, I am sensitive and dry in skin type, so in the morning, I merely rinse with lukewarm water and go on with my day. But there are certain instances in which truly utilizing a balanced cleanser is giving you that best clean. Of course, in my utilization of water alone, I am leaving on any impurities that have built up throughout the night and any sebum that has built up. For me, because I am so dry, I want that sebum. I want those protective lipids. But many individuals, such as oily skin individuals, need that cleansing morning and night. And of course, I of course double cleanse in the evening as well. It's kind of a way to look at it as when you use dish soap. If you were to take your dinner plate and rinse it with water, all that debris, all that leftover food is going to probably stick on the plate. You need that soap to create essentially bubbles around the oil and the grease to rinse it away effectively from the surface of the plate. Same thing with your skin. These cleansers help you lock around the impurities to completely remove them from your skin. So with the utilization of cleansers, we have what are known as surfactant molecules. Surfactants are raw materials and ingredients that are included really for the cleansing efficacy of a cleanser. And they work very similarly to what I had just mentioned, making these tiny bubbles. They're known essentially as micelles, these tiny bubbles. And essentially what they do is they form around an impurity or around an oil to effectively remove it from the skin or detach it from its adherence to the skin. And that allows you to eventually rinse it away. So these impurities are no match for having a surfactant in formulation. Now, with Riman, and because we are K-Beauty, we don't simply just cleanse, we double cleanse. And so with the K-Beauty double cleanse, we use the science of solubilities to effectively clean the skin. You go in first with an oil-based cleanser. This will dissolve oil-based impurities. The makeup, especially waterproof makeup, SPF or sebum that's on your skin. Even men who perhaps are not wearing makeup and hopefully are still wearing sunscreen can still utilize a double cleanse because it's going to dissolve that sunscreen and their natural sebum. And men actually do produce more sebum in their day-to-day. There tend to be oilier skin types. This removal of these oil-based ingredients or impurities rather from the skin is then followed with a water-based cleanser to remove those residual oils with the surfactants in the micelles, but to also get at deeper lodged impurities still existing in the pores. So a K-Beauty double cleanse is quintessential. You can't have one cleanse without the other for a truly robust clean. And in terms of that history lesson, even we see nature, excuse me, we see reports of a double cleanse existing in history. Dates back to 14th century, in which the East Asian women would use natural oils, rice bran, even bean paste to dissolve their makeup. So even in something that seems so modern in its approach, this double cleanse technique was something rooted in history. Now, for our available opportunities of cleansing in Europe and in UK, we have our first step as the moisture cleansing oil. 76% of this formulation is just natural oils, very gently dissolving of those surface impurities to remove them from the skin. The second step is that cleansing powder wash. It is a subacidic powder-based enzymatic cleanser, has papain as the main enzyme to break apart the keratin bonds that are adhering the dead skin cells to the surface while also kind of dissolving the impurities existing deeper within the pores. So the perfect Riman double cleanse is as simple as the moisture cleansing oil and a cleansing powder wash. Next, we will move to that hydrate tenet, which I had mentioned, quintessential to the design of Riemann. Realistically, though, I can argue the importance of each of these tenets in such that not one can exist without the other, but hydration is where the performance and interest in raw materials really comes from. Now, at its healthiest, your skin contains upwards of 64% water. If there is any depletion of this percentage, you can see it in a variety of different ways and aesthetic concerns on the skin. Water plays a quintessential role in cellular processes, promoting that healthy cell turnover, skin elasticity, skin plumpness, nutrient transport, and more. Now, the effective water content within your skin naturally depends on quite a bit. It does depend on your age. We actually lose hydration as we age, your dietary habits, and how much water you're taking in orally, the sun exposure, are UV rays drying out your skin, and your activity levels. Are you sweating a bunch and not replenishing that water stores as well? So really, here we have the answer in terms of the skincare, but because Rimmon is a holistic approach to well-being, make sure you have an understanding of all these other factors when determining how to get your best hydration. Now, when skin is lacking water, it is thought to be dehydrated. And this is an important note because we often talk about dry skin as a skin type. Dry skin is actually lacking oil or lipid from the skin barrier, and subsequently, water is able to evaporate through the skin barrier because it is not complete and tightly packed to protect that water. So, dry skin is lacking both water and oil, but skin solely lacking water is dehydrated skin specifically. And so, all that in mind, hydration is one of the most powerful activities for preventative skincare. So simple in its approach, perhaps borderline boring in the explanation of hydration and its necessity, but it is really dynamic in all the things it can do for your skin that you may not even know about. Now, to understand what it can do for your skin, it's important to look at our skin, to look at the layers and the ways in which water can interact. And so here I have a depiction of our topmost layer of the skin. You have three distinct layers. The epidermis is the topmost portion, dermis in the center, and your hypodermis at the bottom. And for our discussion today, we won't address the hypodermis because that is a layer of fat cells that really help you in maintaining bodily warmth, also giving your body structure. But no skincare should reach this level because that's when something is going systemic, when it has the potential to be also entering your bloodstream. So we will not be addressing the hypodermis, epidermis, and dermis is where it's at. And so the epidermis, as you can see here, is made up of distinct layers, and within those layers are more layers. Specific for our discussion today, I want to focus on that surface-most layer being the stratum corneum. The stratum corneum is a fancy term for your skin barrier. This is what we are looking at when we talk about hydration, because your stratum corneum or skin barrier displays what's known as a brick and mortar structure. This is when those dead skin cells are tightly packed together and surrounded by a lipid environment of these oils and fatty acids and ceramides that really keep your skin barrier strong and able to withstand irritant penetration and water evaporation. So the mortar is essentially the lipids, the ceramides, the brick is the cell or are the cells itself. Now, when skin is dry or dehydrated, as I mentioned, either those skin cells themselves are missing water, and so they've shrunk, allowing for gaps in the skin barrier, or if it is dry, then it is lacking the lipid, the mortar that's filling the gaps between the bricks to allow for a succinct layer, a protective layer. So with hydration, oftentimes many products will act in the skin barrier alone, and that is preferred. That is important because really the water allows for the aesthetic benefits you're looking for, but for the performance of your skin barrier as well. Now, down the line, as we talk about the ICD products, we may go more in depth on the epidermis, what's going on beneath the layers. Here you have melanin production, and this also is relevant when we're talking about hyperpigmentation. You also have that skin cell cycle of all the cells moving from the bottom to the top. Very complex discussion, which of course we can enjoy in depth later. But for the purpose and clarity of today, hydration, we're focusing on that skin barrier. Now, we also want to look at the dermis in a same consideration of water specifics. Your dermis is that second layer of skin, and it contains a lot of really important factors. It has your hair follicles, blood vessels, the sebaceous glands, which produce sebum that coats your hair shaft, but also, of course, coats the barrier. We additionally have sweat glands and nerves. All of this good stuff is happening in the dermis. Outside of all these macro structures, we have what's known as the extracellular matrix, or ECM. The extracellular matrix is really filling all of this empty space here, and it's comprised of the things we look for in terms of structural integrity of the skin: collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid. And so hyaluronic acid specifically is a crucial topic in the consideration of hydration because it is well known in the industry as a powerful hydrator for the skin. But your body actually makes its own hyaluronic acid. It is not just an ingredient in your serums and in your booster. It specifically is present within the extracellular matrix within the dermis, and it binds to collagen. When this is bound, essentially when collagen is bound to these hyaluronic acid and other humectants, it allows for your skin to look plumper and fuller and to feel hydrated as well. So having water and having hydrators in the dermis specifically is how you get the aesthetic benefits of plumpness, fine line and wrinkle reduction, and overall skin tone evenness. So epidermis and dermis love water, need water for a variety of reasons. And what happens if we do not have that water, if we have dry or dehydrated skin? There are so many different aesthetic concerns that can essentially occur. Of course, we have the concept of dullness. As water is a quintessential part of the natural skin cell cycle, you might have a reduction in that natural process if water is not present to help it carry along. This can leave those dead skin cells on the surface, leading to that dull appearance and flaking of the stratum corneum or of the skin barrier. You alternately have an increase in sebum production. When your skin is dry or dehydrated, the body will try to compensate by overproducing sebum. So you might be creating an oily skin type without innately having one, without being genetically predisposed to one. This could be due to over cleansing or not enough hydrating ingredients, enough, oil-based ingredients as well to maintain that oil level to really allow for a balance to the skin. So you can have increased sebum production and in turn, potentially more acne-prone skin. Really importantly, and because of that analysis of the ECM and of the collagen and the elastin, we have the potential for fine lines and wrinkles because water and specifically what are known as glycosaminoglycans, like hyaluronic acid, are necessary binding partners for that collagen and elastin. So a decrease in water, there's less binding volume for the dermis, and there's thus the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. And last but certainly not least, the potential for inflammation. Dehydrated skin can appear inflamed, red, and even feel itchy. This is something that is very easy to happen, again, based on your genetics or daily exposures or UV overexposure. All of that can create inflamed skin. And if your skin is not hydrated enough as is, it is not going to be resilient against such aggressors. So when we look at the basics of formulation, there are three main categories we can utilize to really enforce hydration and also moisturization. And so while hydration is the main tenet of this consideration, we also lump in all the other performing actives within this consideration, and of course moisturization, which is supplying oil to the skin. So hydration is the key kind of name to the game, but then we have all these considerations beneath, like moisturization as well, and performance for antioxidants or, key ingredients that go beyond just hydration or moisturization. So In the creation of a formulation, we have three core ingredients to consider, being humectants, emollients, and occlusives, three main groups, so to speak. Humectants are things like hyaluronic acid. These are structures that attract atmospheric water to the skin, and it also organizes that water throughout the dermal layers. So, for example, a humectant could be glycerin, it could be glycols, urea as well. All these things are going to bind water that naturally exists in our atmosphere and keep it in the skin. Emollients are a secondary category in which these are oil-soluble ingredients. They fill the gaps within our skin barrier between the skin cells in essentially utilization of fats or lipids to soften, to smooth, and reinforce the skin barrier. Examples include jojoba oil, camellia oil, both of which we use in our line, coconut oil, essential oils, all of these different oils you can utilize. We also have esters, which aren't oils directly, but they're very similar in that they are not water soluble and they have that nice emollient feel to the skin as well. What's crucial about the differentiation between these three key ingredients is that there can be overlap for a product to have both, or excuse me, to have a raw material be both an emollient and a humectant, or to be both an emollient and an occlusive. So they're not necessarily fine limitations to the consideration of each of these three ingredient categories. You can have something that has multi-purpose in both attracting water and softening the skin and, creating an occlusive barrier. So with that in mind, that third category is an occlusive. It's really utilizing something like waxes, silicones, lanolin, which come from, of course, sheep, mineral oil, or petrolatum, to create a barrier on the surface of the skin that's hydrophobic in nature, so water cannot evaporate from the surface, and it's allowing for that prevention of water loss. So Riman understands that these ingredients exist, and we look at them carefully to create balanced products that address hydration and moisturization, but also address the protection of these levels for long-term maintenance of hydration and moisturization. And last but not least, we have our protection, locking in all of those efforts for your skin. And with protection, it is a crucial step, not only to lock in those previous efforts, but to prevent future issues from occurring. And this is a crucial thing to consider because with Riman, it's protection and prevention. How do we work with the health of the skin such that you reduce presenting issues, but that those issues don't occur in the future? And so with UV protection, we are looking at UV overexposure. Of course, there are days in which UV exposure is good. It creates vitamin D, it helps with metabolism, but too much can wreak havoc in the skin. And even if you're someone that stays indoors most of the time, like myself, it is still crucial that daily you wear a sunscreen. Without proper UV protection, there are a variety of damages that can occur, from something inconvenient like a sunburn to something really serious such as skin cancer. And so when we look at the damages caused by UV overexposure or UV radiation, we're often looking at oxidation of the skin. Now, UV overexposure can create what are known as reactive oxygen species. This includes things like free radicals. Essentially, the free radicals or the reactive oxygen species are lacking electrons. And when they form in your body, they want to steal electrons from other things. And when they do that, they create an imbalance that can have minor effects and major effects for your skin. For example, it can create permanent dryness, like we mentioned in the hydration step. It breaks down things like hyaluronic acid such that nothing can be bound to in the dermis, and it creates permanence in the dryness. There's also the concept of permanent redness, again mentioned in the hydration step. It essentially creates inflammatory cytokines or mediators that create inflammation in the skin, allow them to be present and to keep inflammation happening even if the aggressor is no longer present, such as the UV rays. Really notably, it is able to actually increase collagen and elastin breakdown. So reactive oxygen species and free radicals can can actually permanently turn on enzymes that break down collagen and elastin. We have these enzymes present naturally because they help us organize collagen in our body on the day to day. But if we permanently increase their activity, they're breaking down collagen and elastin that we needed for structural integrity of the skin, thusly causing fine lines and wrinkles and sagging as well. And lastly, and considerably still important, is the overproduction of melanin. So, reactive oxygen species can influence the melanogenesis pathway, which is the pathway that produces skin pigment or melanin, and it can turn it permanently on. So, it's producing melanin that is not directly contributing to your natural skin tone, that instead it's depositing in a specific location to create a dark spot or hyperpigmentation. All of these are so easily remedied by protecting your skin from oxidation, such that these species do not exist in the skin, but also it's about antioxidant care. If the oxidative species always already exist, how can we neutralize them so that they don't wreak havoc in our body? So, with protection and prevention, the use of sunscreens not only protects your skin from those UV rays, but it is thought to be one of the most original forms of anti-aging. In the industry, we are always looking for anti-aging, for ways in which we can age well or age smartly. And something as simple as wearing sunscreen often is overlooked, but it is one of the time-tested ways in which you can protect your skin from all of those previous damages, from photo aging specifically, in a manner that greatly supports genuine health and allows for that long-term glow. And as I'd mentioned when going over the three tenets together with a basic overview, with Riman, protection is dynamic. So yes, you have your UV protection with the moisture layer sun protector, but you also have existing products that reinforce your skin's innate protection, your skin barrier, and filling in those gaps so that it's strong and withstands irritant penetration or water evaporation. Many products have antioxidants such that if that oxidation already occurs, you have the tools to fight against it and to neutralize it. Our giant young pole, for example, is a powerful antioxidant. We have niacinamide and vitamin C in almost all of our products, industry standards, and key and unique ingredients beyond that to further protect the skin in the form of antioxidant care. So, realistically, when we value the three tenets of K-beauty, they are all quintessential, whether it's inside Rimmon or out, to create a good routine. But of course, with Rimmon, we uphold the Rimmon difference. So within each category, there is so much more in the understanding and in the importance of these basic tenets that allow us to create products with profound multifunctional results for your skin, all rooted in the same goal of helping you achieve well-being inside and out. And that is it for today. So I know that today's topic was quite in depth because there's so much science to be said. There's, the humectants and occlusives and hygroscopic structures and glycosaminoglycans, all these terms that I want to reinforce you do not need to memorize. What's important is that you understand cleansing, hydrating, and protecting your skin is such a simple way to ensure that you have a routine for life and that your skin is supported every single day. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Remon One-on-One call. We will see you in 2 weeks with another call on that Wednesday. Talk to you later.